ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जायमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकय चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We are reading from Canto 4, Chapter 29, the talks between Narada and King Prachina Parishad. So we are at text 12. So this is the section where Narada Muni is elaborating on the allegorical story on the request of Prachina Parishad. And Narada Muni has already explained all this in different chapters previously. Now the various characters are being once again revisited here by Narada Muni. Text 12. आपणो व्यवहारोऽत्र चिन्वन्धो बहूदनं पितृः दक्षिणकर्ण उत्तरो देवः स्मृतः. Translation.
The city called Apana represents engagement of the tongue in speech, and Bahudana is the variety of footsteps. The right ear is called the gate of Pitruhu, and the left ear is called the gate of Devahu. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So now there is a description of Pitruhu, the right ear, which is used for Karma Kanda and typically elevates one to Pitruloka. And there is Devahu, the left ear, which is used for Jnana Kanda and which can elevate one to the higher planets above Swargaloka. And these are the Dakshina and Uttara Panchal, that is the Pravritti scriptures and Nivritti scriptures, right? So this is the right and left ear. And then there is speech that is called as Bahudan, and that Bahudan speech, it is tasting the variety of the footsteps. Text 13. प्रवृत्तिं च निवृत्तिं च शास्त्रं पाञ्चालसंज्ञितं पितृयानं देवयानं श्रोत्रात् श्रुतधरात् प्रचेत्. Translation.
Translation. Narada Muni continued, the cities spoken of as Dakshina Panchala represent the scriptures meant for directing pravritti, the process of sense enjoyment in fruitive activities. The other city named Uttara Panchala represent the scriptures meant for decreasing fruitive activities and increasing knowledge. The living entity receives different kinds of knowledge by means of 2 years, and some living entities are promoted to Pitta Loka and some to Devloka. All this is made possible by the 2 years. Purport. The Vedas are known as Shruti, and the knowledge received from them through oral reception is called Shrutadhara. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, one can be promoted to the planets of the demigods or to the planets of the Pitas, forefathers, or even to the Vaikuntha planets simply through the process of hearing. These things have already been explained in the previous chapters. Hare Krishna.
So there is a Pravritti mark and Nivritti mark, and one is called as Karma Kanda, another is called as Jnana Kanda. So the right ear for the Pitruloka, describing Karma Kanda, and the left ear, Nivritti mark for the Devayana, describing Jnana Kanda. And Shruti Dhara, one who Vedas are known as Shruti, Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport. And knowledge received through them is called as Shrutidhara, one who receives the knowledge through Shruti. And we know that there are different planets. Yanti Deva Vrata Devan, Pitrun Yanti Pitruvrataha. Bhutani Yanti Bhuteja, Yanti Madhyachinotima. So there are different planets. And accordingly, one is promoted to different destinations. Text 14. आसुरीं मेढमर्वाक द्वाभयां ग्रामीणां रतिः उपस्थो दुर्मदा प्रोक्तो निरुत्रीर्गुदौच्यते. Translation.
The city called Gramaka, which is approached through the lower gate of Asuri, the genital organ, is meant for sensual enjoyment, which is very pleasing to common men who are simply fools and rascals. The faculty of procreation is called Durmada, and the rectum is called Niriti. Purport. When the world becomes degraded, civilization becomes demoniac, and for the common man, the rectum and the genitals are taken very seriously as the centers of all activity. Even in such a sacred place as Vrindavan, India, unintelligent men pass off this rectal and genital business as spiritual activity. Such people are called Sahajya. According to their philosophy, through sexual indulgence, one can elevate oneself to the spiritual platform. From these verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, however, we understand that the desires for sensual satisfaction are meant for the arvak, the lowest among men. To rectify these rascals and fools is very difficult. After all, the sensual desires of the common man are condemned in these verses. The word durmada means wrongly directed, and nirriti means sinful activity. Although this clearly indicates that sensual indulgence is abominable and misdirected even from the ordinary point of view, the Sahajiyas nonetheless pass themselves off as devotees conducting spiritual activities. For this reason, Vrindavan is no longer visited by intelligent men. We are often asked why we have made our center in Vrindavan. From the external point of view, it can be conducted that Vrindavan has become degenerate due to these Sahajiya activities. Yet, from the spiritual point of view, Vrindavan is the only place where all these sinful persons can be rectified by means of taking birth in the forms of dogs, hogs, and monkeys. By living in Vrindavan as a dog, a hog, or monkey, the living entity can be elevated to the spiritual platform in the next life.
Yeah. So now there is a city known as Gramaka. And this Gramaka, it has the two gates, Asuri and Nirutti. So Asuri is the genitals, Nirutti is the rectums. And Gramaka means simply enjoying the sensual life. And the Nirutti, the destination, the sense object is Vaishesha, that is very painful, that is clearing the stomach. And this produces Durmada, complete madness, and Lubdaka, that is the greed. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, when the world becomes degraded, right, and civilization becomes demoniac, then the Dakshin part of the body will take more prominence. People will be focusing on the activities based on the Dakshin part of the body, and such people are called as Arvaka, and their philosophy is best exemplified by Charvaka. What is the Charvak philosophy? Ranam krutva ghrutam pivet, yavat jivet sukham jivet. Yah bhasmibhutasya dehasya kim punaragamano bhavet. Ranam krutva ghrutam pivet. That, drink ghee, take loan. Take loan nowadays is simple, credit card. Drink ghee, spend far beyond your means. Yavat jivet sukham jivet. Live a life of extravagance. Once one person is dead and burned, who has seen Punaragaman is there or not? Right. So that is the lowest among the men, that is called as Charvak. And such people are not only found in the outside world, even in the world of transcendence, especially in Vrindavan, there are people who are called as Sahajiyas. Sahajiya means they will take everything very cheaply. What is the meaning of that? That means, say somebody is preparing for NEET exam, and how the NEET topper will speak. They will speak like a NEET topper, and study is zero. So their marks will be zero, but the speech will be like they will study some 2, 3 interviews. And this is how they are called as Sahajiyas, taking everything very cheaply, and they will have great focus on activities through the Dakshina Dwara of the bodies. Correct. And such people are very strongly condemned. But when they stay in Vrindavan and conduct such activities, next life they will be born in the form of dogs, hogs, and monkeys. Srila Prabhupada used to say when Prabhupada first time took Yatra to Vrindavan, and there were so many pigs, and Prabhupada said, these are the Sahajiyas in their previous life, who led a life like a gutter life, and therefore they are born like this. But after this life, by the very transcendental divine touch of the Dham, Vrindavan Dham, they will be elevated. So Prabhupada used to describe this about the monkeys, dogs, and hogs in Vrindavan. And they will be elevated to the spiritual platform in the next life by the virtue of having association of the Dham so intimately throughout their life. So these are the two gates. Text 15. Vaishasam narakam payuhu lubdhakantau andhau tume shrunu hastapadav pumantabhyam yukto yati karoti cha. Translation.
When it is said that Puranjana goes to Vaishasa, it is meant that he goes to hell. He is accompanied by Lubdhaka, which is the working sense in the rectum. Formerly, I have also spoken of two blind associates. These associates should be understood to be the hands and legs. Being helped by the hands and legs, the living entity performs all kinds of work and moves hither and thither. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So these are the Gramaka and Vaishasha, and they go to the destination accompanied by the friend Durmada and Lubdhaka, that is madness and greed. They are the accompanying friends. So there is a summary of all these city of 9 gates, right? So that there are 2 eyes, which is the left eye is called as a Khadyota, and it is less powerful generally. It is compared to the glowworm, and Avirmukhi is the right eye, which is called as a torchlight, which is generally more powerful. We have to talk to ophthalmologists, doctors here, to know, which eye first has the cataract and which eye first has the, the retinal and all those issues. But there is indication. Left eye is less powerful, right eye is more powerful generally. Their destination is the form, that is Vibhramajit, and their accompanying friend is Duman, sun, the demigod, and the eye, right? That is the Duman. Then there are 2 gates, Nalini and Nalini. These are the 2 nostrils used for inhale and exhale, smelling, etc. They go to the destination of Saurabha. Saurabha means the realm of the smell, and their friend is nose, that is Avadhuta. The next gate is Mukhya, that is the chief gate. Why? Because it is the mouth and it is used for eating and speaking. He goes to the destination called as Bahudan, which are the different eatables, and also he goes to another destination called as Apan with 2 friends. One is tongue and another is voice, that is called as Rasatnya and Vipal. Okay. So this is how beautifully Narad Muni is explaining the city of 9 gates. Then there is Pitruhu, the right ear, which goes to the Pradesh called as Dakshin Panchal, which are the Pravritti scriptures, and their accompanying friend is Shrutidhar, that is the ear. And the left ear is called as Devahu, which goes for Jnanakand, for the Deva Yuloka. This is called as the Pradesh of Uttara Panchal, with the same friend, that is Shruti or Shrutidhar, that is ear. And then just now we have seen these 2, Asuri and Nirutti. These are the genitals and the rectums. They go to the destination of Gramaka, that is the sensual life, and Vaishasa, painful Pradesh, that is going to toilet. Okay. Accompanying with the friends, that is Durma the madness, and Lubdhaka, that is grief. So these are the city of 9 gates, and these are the 9 accompanying friends they have, and the 9 destinations they travel to. So this is how Narada Muni very beautifully explains how the Puranjan, is being distracted from his path by these 9 gates. Okay, very, very amazing description. So sometimes, when we are too much into some activity which is not outrightly very Krishna conscious, and neither it is related to our Varna, the Varna activity or the spiritual activity. Varna means either it is professional life or spiritual life. You should be aware, which gate is my attention is flowing through. So the Puranjan going literally means wherever attention is flowing to. Right. Text 16. Antapurascha hridayam vishuchi mana uchyate tatra moham prasadam va harsham prapnoti tadgunaihi.
The word Antapura refers to the heart. The word Vishuchina, meaning going everywhere, indicates the mind. Within the mind, the living entity enjoys the effects of the modes of material nature. These effects sometimes cause illusion, sometimes satisfaction, and sometimes jubilation. Purport: the mind and intelligence of the living entity in material existence are affected by the modes of material nature. And according to the association of the material modes, the mind is habituated to go here and there. The heart feels satisfaction, jubilation, and illusion according to the effects of the modes of material nature. Actually, the living entity in his material condition remains inert. It is the modes of material nature that act on the mind and heart. The results are enjoyed or suffered by the living entity. This is clearly stated in Bhagavad Gita 3.27. Prakritiha kriyamani gunai karmani sarvashah ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. The bewildered spirit soul, under the influence of the three modes of material nature, thinks himself the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by nature.
And then there is Antapura. Antapura refers to heart. Correct. What a beautiful analogy. Antapura means, not everybody can go. It is not like the hall, it is like the bedroom. Right. So that is Antapura. Antapura refers to heart. And the word Vishuchina means going everywhere, and that refers to mind. So within the mind, the living entity enjoys the effects of the modes of material nature, sometimes illusion, satisfaction, and jubilation. Typically, the modes of Tatra Moha Prasadam Va Harsham. So these are the ignorance, passion, and goodness effects of the three modes. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, the mind and intelligence, they are affected by the modes of material nature. And thus the mind, according to the association of the modes, the mind is habituated to go here and there. Right. How to know mind is going here and there? Because all these commanders, 10 working, they have the two blind friends, which are being explained previously, the hands and legs. Why they are called as blind? Because they have no intelligence on their own, and they will just do on the dictation of these gates and these accompanying friends of those gates and the destination that is chosen by. So they are just acting blindly. So so these hands and legs are called as the blind friends of the living entity of the Puranjan. And the heart will feel the satisfaction, jubilation, or illusion according to the modes of material nature. And the life is so tricky sometimes. You may feel the best of the satisfaction in the morning and the worst of the illusion in the evening. Right. In the morning, you may feel like we are the pure devotee, and in the evening, we may be just struggling with, does God exist? In the morning, you may feel like a topper, and the evening, you may feel like a utter failure. So This is how the modes of material nature, they affect a living entity. And Srila Prabhupada says the soul is actually inert and it is simply reacting to the three modes of material nature which act on mind and the heart. So now, every word here is very critical. Okay, just read this word line again. Actually, the living entity in his material condition remains inert. It is the modes of material nature, okay, that act on the mind and the heart. Okay, so what is acting? The modes of material nature are going to act on the mind and the heart, and the results are enjoyed or suffered by the living entity. And then Srila Prabhupada quotes Bhagavad Gita, Prakriti Kriyamanani. What is Prakriti? Gunamai. Prakriti is Guna. Gunais Karmani Sarvashah Ahankar Vimudatma Karta Aham Iti Manyate. That the bewildered spirit soul, under the influence of the three modes of material nature, think himself is the doer of the activities which are actually carried out by nature. Does that mean we stop working? No, at least we should understand that the modes of material nature are acting on mind and the heart. Right. So otherwise, the propensity is always to renounce work. As we see time to time, Arjuna, proposes this to Krishna. That okay, Krishna, understood. Chitta Pradnyasya ka bhasha, understood. Chalo, I'll go to forest and take sannyas. I will give up my activity. No, that is not the point. That self-realization is not so cheap. So one has to understand how the things are affecting, how the things are acting, and one has to do what one is supposed to do in this world and simultaneously cultivate Krishna consciousness very carefully. So this is how the Antapura, and then there is explanation of heart and the mind. Right. Text 17. Now there is a description of intelligence. Yatha yatha vikriyate gunakto vikaroti va तथा तथा upadrishtatma tadvritti anukaryate. Translation.
Formerly, it was. Go ahead, man.
Formerly, it was explained that the queen is one's intelligence. While one is awake or asleep, that intelligence creates different situations. Being influenced by contaminated intelligence, the living entity envisions something and simply imitates the actions and reactions of his intelligence. Purport. The queen of Puranjana is described herein as intelligence itself. Intelligence acts both in the dream state and in the waking state, but it is contaminated by the three modes of material nature. Since the intelligence is contaminated, the living entity is also contaminated. In the conditioned state, the living entity acts according to his contaminated intelligence. Although he simply remains an observer, he nonetheless acts being forced by contaminated intelligence, which in reality is a passive agent. Thank you.
Yeah. So now there is a queen, and that queen is the intelligence. And the queen is one's intelligence. So queen doesn't mean that it is being referred to the lady. It is for the lady, her intelligence. For the man, his intelligence. Okay. So Jivatma, every Atma is Puranjan, and the intelligence is the queen of that Jivatma. And it is constantly acting whether one is awake or asleep. And this creates different situations. Like there is a, Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport, there is a dream state, there is a waking up state, and then there is another state which is like a daydream state. That also one has to realize. One may have some, a stupid idea about something, and one may be, imagining that kind of pursuit, that kind of a destination, that kind of life. That is the daydream state. So this is how the intelligence is acting. And being bewildered by this contaminated intelligence, the living entity envisions something and simply imitates the actions and the reactions of his intelligence. Right. So, especially this is true. One can say this in the, if one is simply following either, we can say that the husband is blindly following the wife, or the wife is blindly following the husband, or some kind of that indication. So this is the intelligence. Srila Prabhupada further explains, although he simply remains as observer, he nonetheless acts, right? Being forced by a contaminated intelligence, which in reality is a passive agent. And therefore, this intelligence should be guided by the Shastra. Tasmat Shastra Pramanam. So therefore, it is very important that scriptural things becomes the guiding agent, and this intelligence is strengthened. And Bhagavad Gita says this, the study of Bhagavad Gita is actually engaging intelligence in the service of the Supreme Lord. Text 18, 19, and 20. देहो रतस्तु इन्द्रिया अश्वसंवत्सरोर्योर्गतिः द्विकर्मचक्रत्रिगुणः ध्वजः पञ्चासु बन्धुरः मनोरश्मिर्बुद्धिसूतो रहिण्यो द्वन्द्वकूबरः पञ्चेन्द्रियार्थप्रक्षेपः सप्तधातुवरोधकः आकुतिर्विक्रमो बाह्यो मृगतृष्णां प्रधावति एकादशेन्द्रियच्चमु पञ्चसूना विनोदकृत्. Translation.
Narad Muni continued, what I referred to as the chariot was in actuality the body. The senses are the horses that pull that chariot. As time passes, year after year, these horses run without obstruction. But in fact, they make no progress. Pious and impious activities are the two wheels of the chariot. The three modes of the material nature are the chariot's flags. The 5 types of life air constitute the life and the living entity's bondage, and the mind is considered to be the rope. Intelligence is the chariot driver. The heart is the sitting place in the chariot, and dualities of life, such as pleasure and pain, are the knotting place. The 7 elements are coverings of the chariot, and the working senses are the 5 external processes. The 11 senses are the soldiers. Being engrossed in sense enjoyment, the living entity seated on the chariot hankers after the fulfillment of his false desires and runs after sense enjoyment life after life. Purport.
Yeah. So we will take the purport tomorrow. So Narada Muni here gives a complete summary of the chariot and body analogy. So very, very famous chariot body analogy that we have seen. This is the chariot and body analogy, so beautifully explained by Narada Muni. So let's go through this analogy. Narada Muni explained, when I said chariot, it was actually the body. Senses are the horses that pull that chariot. And as the time passes, year after year, these horses run without obstruction. The senses are distracted everywhere without making any real progress in spiritual life. Right? So we have seen that. Life after life. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. One is having the senses are fully let loose. They are trying to enjoy in different ways, but we are at the same place. There is no spiritual progress by the Jivatma. The pious and the impious activities are the two wheels of the chariot. Right? So when the chariot is right tilted, it will turn on the pious activities. Chariot is left tilted, it will run on the impious activities, left liberal activities. And generally the chariot will have both the wheels, that is conducting pious and impious activities, and thus accumulating various karmas. And then there is a dhwaja on the chariot, and dhwaja is constantly changing. Sometimes the dhwaja is mode of goodness, sometimes passion, sometimes ignorance. Sometimes the dhwaja in the morning may be goodness and night may be complete ignorance. And therefore one has to be very careful which mode one is conducting in. And because that mode becomes heavy at the moment, and at that moment that mode should not guide our especially the blind friends, that is hands and legs, right, to perform any activity which is not good for oneself or others. So these flags are constantly changing. There are 5 types of air that constitute the living entity's bondage, and the mind is considered the rope of the chariot, right? And this rope is tightly held by the intelligence, and heart is the sitting place in the chariot where the living entity is sitting, and all the dualities of the life, they are the knotting place, like the pleasure and pain that chariot is passing through. Chariot is covered by Saptadhatu, 7 elements, and the working senses are the 5 external processes. There are 11 senses are the soldiers, right? Being engrossed in sense enjoyment, the living entity seated on the chariot at the place of the heart hankers after fulfillment of his false desires. Right? Where is running? Running in the false pradesh of false desires, and runs after the illusory sense enjoyment, life after life. Right? Sometimes the chariot will be of a different body. Sometimes the chariot may be body of a demigod. Sometimes the chariot may be the body of the animals. Sometimes the chariot may be the human body, and constantly running. This is the typical condition of Puranjan or Jivatma in the conditioned state. So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai,
Jai.
Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you very much. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, Dandavata Pranam.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu Dandavata Pranam. Hare Krishna.